Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, a business strategist, a real estate investor, a speaker, and also a best-selling author. Every single day, I have the opportunity to help others unlock the potential and guide them to succeed. More often than not, I see people not reaching the potential, not taking action because they are missing that link. They are missing that podcast, that connection, that person, that strategy, that story, whatever it is that will help them get them over that hump. That's why we have this show, so that every single week you will listen to this show, unlock your potential, maintain that level of success, and reach a higher peak potential and achieve things you never even dreamed of. Today, I have an amazing, exciting guest. He's somebody I met a few years ago, and right away, he was a force. He was a powerhouse. He has a great attitude, lots of fun to talk to because he has a wealth of stories, and he's just an inspiration to many. He is a three-time Canadian Olympian in the four-man bobsled team, a former Team Canada track and field sprinter, founder of the Right Performance and Therapy, a sports performance therapist who focuses on function, performance, and regeneration. He coaches athletes in optimizing their performance with speed coaching and program consultation, and he is just an amazing wealth of energy and knowledge and stories. He's a world-class guy. Please welcome Canadian Olympian Neville Wright.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure. And like I said, you have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of stories. And it's always fun to talk to you.
I appreciate that.
So aside from knowing that you're an Olympian, is there something that you could tell us about yourself from where you started off and how you got to become a sports athlete? And then how did you transition from that to a speaker and a coach?
So growing up, like I was a big fan of sports. I played all sorts of sports, but I mean, I wasn't really in any organized sports just because organized sports became more expensive. So I'd usually play for school. And then, like as I was continuing to develop and play sports, track and field seemed to be the sport that I was doing really well in. And, started to progress in track and field, like from the high school level. Then got to university, competed for the University of Alberta, where then I ended up doing really well there. Multiple national champion and medalist at the school. And then, kind of progressed from there. Made Team Canada actually after my second year at university for track and field. Continue from there after I graduated from university, did track a bit more at a higher level, and then switched over to bobsledding.
Wow.
After some disappointments I had as a sprinter, and then went represented at 3 Olympic Games, and then from there, while I was competing, I actually took the time to continue to educate myself, learn, and develop. So I had my degree already. But I continued to educate myself and became a therapist as well, coaching certification, so became like a speed power coach, a sprint coach, and then speaker. Developed that and been going around sharing my story with others.
How did you find that second calling? Like your second calling to become somebody who goes up on stage and motivate people?
Can you say that again? The volume.
So the question was, how did you find that second calling for yourself? Where you go, okay, I'm doing all this athletic stuff. I actually want to go up and speak on stage and motivate people.
Well, I found that while as an athlete, I was always connecting with other athletes and other individuals and sharing my story, giving them perspective, and almost like doing like a lot of mentoring and a lot of speaking. And then I was asked before to speak, and I did that, and it was like, oh, this isn't too bad, and then but like when I was speaking, it was more like I had like a paper, like kind of like I had wrote down, I was kind of going off of that, and then I was like, I really want to develop my ability to speak, so I started to actually talk to other companies or within my sports center. I talked to them and a few other individuals, and then took a few courses, and then kind of learned how to speak without like having a paper or a notepad, or basically speaking from the heart, sharing my story. And I think because I was able to speak from the heart and my experience, I was able to share a more authentic, connecting story to individuals. And just yeah, my passion grew from there, and I just really like having the opportunity to, like I said, share my story and help others. And I like to see others excel, move forward, develop, and grow, and not waste their potential. So that's where I guess that potential, that passion came from.
Mm-hmm. Now, you reinvented yourself a few times, from a sprinter to a bobsledder to a speaker to a coach to a trainer. Which one do you think was the most difficult to transition into? And how did you meet that challenge and overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge I think was when I went from a sprinter to a bobsledder. It wasn't that it was, well, I mean, there was challenges because I mean, I was a summer athlete and then went to a winter athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the training was a bit different in the volume. But I quickly adjusted just because my mindset, I really want to succeed and do well. And because I really want to do so well, it made the transition easier. In regards to like speaking, being a coach, being a therapist, that transition was actually a lot easier because while I was competing as an athlete, I took the time to not just be an athlete that just, competes in my sport, but I took every engagement with every professional and therapist, coaches, trainers, other athletes, whoever it may be. I always took it as a learning opportunity. So I was learning while I was competing. So then when I decided to do coaching, get my certification, it was easy. When I went to become a therapist, I ended up actually graduating with honors, and the program was really easy for me, or a lot easier for me, because I had already been learning, 10 years already from, like I said, other therapists, other different practitioners, and for example, if I was getting therapy,
Mm-hmm.
I'd go in and I'd lay on the table and I'd say, listen, speak to me in proper medical terminology. Don't dumb it down for me. If I don't know, I'll ask questions or I'll look it up. And then when they're done treating me, when they'd be treating some of my other teammates, I would sometimes ask to sit down, and I would sit down and observe what they're doing. Why are you doing this technique, and ask tons of questions. So it really enhanced my learning and my growth, not only as an athlete, but preparing me for life after sport.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about that, what I really hear is you were able to really engage with many people throughout your journey. When you're on the world stage, you connected with lots of different people, ask questions, and just really learn from everywhere you can and from everybody you can, right?
Yeah.
Now, that means you also have to build lots of great relationships. So what would be your main keys in building strategic, strong relationships worldwide with different people from all different cultures?
Well, the biggest, I think, my ability to be able to develop relationships and maintain them is I was able to build and create authentic relationships. Like, it wasn't like a relationship that I tried to develop just to have something. So like, in case I need this, I can reach out to them. It was like my engagements are always true and authentic, and I was being myself and really connected to them. I'd share my story, I would hear their story. And I think because of that type of engagement, it's not even like a strategy. I was just, like I said, being myself. But because of that interaction and that engagement and how I was, like, where like I truly try to be as authentic as possible. And I mean, I love connecting with people. I wasn't really a very social individual before. I kind of kept to myself, but then as I started to engage more and more with different individuals, that connection, I think it just started to grow in me, and then I just had a passion just to be able to connect with people.
Mm-hmm. Now, being on the world stage, there's a lot of pressure on you. The whole country's watching you perform. You have to perform at your peak performance. Comparing that feeling to going up on stage and speaking to, let's say, 1,000 people, how does that compare to each other?
Tell you the truth, the process of both is almost like so obviously, you put the work in, like with competing as an athlete, tons of training, studying, looking at video, things like that. With speaking, like the same thing, like lots of practice, rehearsing with myself, and But the whole process of doing it, like almost like when I walk up to the line, like as I'm walking up to the line to compete, I get that same thing. My heart's racing, sweating. I would get that same feeling when I would speak, going up to speak, and I would have almost um, like being nervous, but like it's a good nervous, like, or I guess you could say like, how you have like bad stress and good stress is like a good stress, and that same process, like I'm there, take a breath, and then I go, and then once I start moving, I get to my momentum or like my groove, whether it's I'm pushing or speaking, then all of a sudden things will start to flow a lot easier. So I kind of compare them both as the same.
Mhm. What's your main pump up motivational kind of strategy that right before you go up on the world stage or on stage to speak? Do you have a secret mantra that you like to talk about, or a secret song that you sing? What do you do?
Well, like I always go, my model, or now I call it like more of a lifestyle, is I can, I do, I will. And it was like a process of self-development and growth, whereas like, I can do it. So I'm acknowledging that I can actually do this, and do the I do part is knowing that it's like, what, I do have the skills, the ability, the knowledge, the talent to be able to do this. And then I will, which is the confirmation, or the action word. We're saying that, what, I can do this. I do have the ability. I will. And now it's like saying that I'm going to commit to this and do it. So that's something that I've used in sport, and that's helped me transfer outside of sport for when I'm speaking as well too.
Mhm. Yeah, when I first heard you say that I can, I do, I will, it's really stuck with me because it's something I sometimes think about when I'm faced with a challenge or faced with adversity and whatnot, and it's very, very powerful. I love that so much. Now, during this period of time of lockdown, and so many people are facing these challenges of staying at home or not being able to work, how have you adjusted? How have you used this I can, I do, I will attitude and adjusted the way you either perform business or when it comes to training?
Well, the biggest thing I've always said is that I do my best to, every time there's a situation that doesn't seem favorable, I always do my best to try and find the positive out of that situation. So with everything that went on, because I mean everything got shut down, I couldn't do therapy, couldn't do coaching, events were canceled for me to speak. I looked at the positive side, where it's like, well, you know what, everything's moving so fast all the time. Fast-paced society, just going, going, going. This is the first time now where everything has slowed down, and now everything has slowed down. I'm using this opportunity to work on projects and develop myself as an individual more, where I really didn't have, like, I was able to do some of that, but I mean, you have to put some things on the back burner because of how much how busy you are working with other things. So yeah, it's allowed me to kind of slow down and kind of do a whole replanning and of what I'm going to do, and preparing myself for, once we get out of this situation, to be able to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's totally awesome, because I truly believe people should take this time to really grow, expand themselves, and find different skill sets they can attach to their toolbox, so that they're very prepared for later.
100%.
Now, you're a coach, and I know you've been surrounded by a lot of coaches during your athletics career, and then you're also surrounded by coaches currently with business and mentorship and all that kind of stuff. How has coaching really shaped the way you've become successful in both athletics and also in business? And how come most people don't find coaches in business?
So I think for a coach, like especially in athletics, like the way how my coach was, I've had the same coach actually my entire career from track to bobsleigh, Quinn Sekulich. And the way how he would coach me was like where he gives intermittent feedback, he'd explain things, and his coaching style actually, I adapted kind of like that type of coaching style, where I was able to do, now use that with other athletes and have great success. And I mean, nowadays it's always hard to find a good coach, and I think it's very important to have one. In regards to for business coaching, because I have like mentors and other people that I speak to, I find maybe a lot of times people might not get a business coach because I almost feel like some people are almost reluctant to invest in something that they're like a process that they're not too sure about, right? So it's like where if you knew an individual that, you know, from where they started and then built up to become a coach, you are more confident to be able to allow them to coach you, right? I think, and I mean, there's so many different coaches out there. It can also be bad experiences because I know there are people that, you know, they've been with other coaches where they just had an awful experience and then that's deterred them. So I think it's just really important to, like, you know, obviously explore, try and find a coach, and then, you know, if it, you know, use your intuition, and, you know, if it's working for you,
Mhm.
then, you know, go with it. If, you know, if there's certain things that you need that you're not getting, then it's either you address it with the coach or you reevaluate and find another coach.
Well, that's very good. Now, what is your current passion right now? Like, what are you very focused on doing and building as of right now?
So I always talk about my big three, which is speed coaching, so coaching athletes or high performance coaching,
Mhm.
therapy, so high performance therapy, and then speaking. But lately, I just really enjoy, like I said, I've been really enjoying connecting because I mean, all three are very similar where you're connecting with someone else and you're helping them. But I find that with the speaking, that there's so much um, untapped potential, I think, that I haven't tapped into yet. And I can see so much growth in that area. And it just, the more I've been doing it, between speaking, doing mentorship, things like that, it's really starting to become a driving force. So I find, like, if I was to rank priority or a passion and what I want to do, I would say speaking is number one, therapy, and then coaching.
Mhm. So, something that I've always wanted to ask a professional sprinter is when you're running high speeds, and also if you're going down the bobsled at high speeds, does things actually slow down? Is there really that slow motion moment where you go, everything's calm, I'm gonna do this?
So, and I don't want to sound too what's the word, like guru-ish, or, you know, but I have had quite a few moments, like when and it's happened both in track and field and bobsledding,
Mm.
where the crowd's going crazy. Like, the first time I experienced this actually was in track and field. The crowd is yelling, screaming, and everything, and like, he's like, you know, the gun goes off, and as I, like, you know, because I always you know, I go through a little routine, like I'd come up the line, take a breath, get in my blocks. I'd look up one last time, huge breath in, head down, and I'd breathe out, and then breathe and hold. And I remember coming out and I started sprinting, and I know people are cheering. But all of a sudden, it was like I got this tunnel vision,
Mhm.
and then I couldn't hear anybody. It was like the whole place was quiet. And the only thing I did pick out, though, because I remember I was doing a race and I started tightening up a bit, and my shoulders were coming up a little bit. And everyone's screaming. My coach is in the crowd, and he yells, "Relax!" And I picked out his voice,
Wow.
and all of a sudden I just went like this. Everything dropped, and then I just flew. Same thing with bobsledding. Everything would happen, like in the beginning, you're pushing, and everything's happening so fast. But then just before we're supposed to load, it's like everything became slow motion. Like, went into slow motion. I would see from the pilot loading, I would see the crewmen, and I would see every single detail, to where their foot is, to the hand placement, to, you know, if they're maybe if there's a delay with them getting in.
Mhm.
And it was like I was able to stay calm and react to what's happening, because it's like everything slowed down.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of times you might see that in movies and things like that. Is it true? And for me, that's the experience that I've had, where it's like it's happened so slow, and then there's other times where it's happened slow, but then I get to the bottom, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened. Or I could pick out every detail. It's like, yeah, your foot got caught on this.
Mhm.
I saw, like, you know, your suit was flapping here, or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does happen,
Have
or
you
at least
had
for me.
have you had an equivalent experience from a coaching standpoint where you're on stage or speaking, you go, wow, everything's kind of, I'm in the zone.
Actually, yeah, like it's almost like that flow, or that groove, or you get into same thing like with training. I've had the same thing with speaking, where I get up and I've had moments where I'm like super nervous. I don't even know why I'm so nervous, and it's to a point where my heart's beating. I can hear the sweat dropping in my shirt, like just splashing my shirt, because it's so loud. And then I start speaking, and then as I start speaking, I also gauge out the audience's energy,
Right.
and then I'll look out there, and then also when I see that they're in tune, or I'll say something, or say, for example, I always try to do a little bit of comic relief, and when I hear them and they start laughing, all of a sudden, it's like all that energy, and when they're laughing, it comes right into me, and then everything just calms down, and then I get locked into this groove, and then I'm just flowing. And sometimes I even have something that I go over, but then something else comes to mind, or even a deeper thought on a certain subject, or a particular point I might have, and then I'm just flowing. So yeah, it's happened with speaking as well too. It's a nice feeling when it happens too, because then you're done, and you're like, not to be like narcissistic or anything. Man, I killed that, man. I was like, I was on fire, kind of thing.
That's awesome. Now, if you had the chance right now to spread a message to the entire world, what message would you be sending out there?
One of the biggest things is everything is a matter of perspective, and I think if you can change your perspective, especially change it in a positive manner, you make things a lot easier for yourself, or is easier to grow. So, for example, I always say that I try to find the positive in every situation. That I always have, regardless of how bad something is, or even how bad a day is, there's a positive in it. There has to be some type of positive in it. Even if it's something as simple as, I was able to get out of bed on my own and walk to the bathroom, or something like that. But I always say, changing your perspective on that, and so that's one thing. And then also too, like in regards to doubt, because I mean, doubt's the biggest doubt and fear. And I always say, especially when it comes to fear, embrace fear, because it's something that will help you develop, grow, become more resilient. I refer to where there's a scene in Batman, the Batman with Bane in there, and he couldn't he couldn't get out of the pit, he couldn't make the jump, and the guy was like, you can't do it because of fear, and he's like, I'm not afraid. And he's like, well, that's your problem. He's like, you need to have that fear, embrace that fear. When you embrace that fear, you'll be able to push yourself harder. You'll be more resilient, be more focused, more determined to overcome. So those are the points that I would say.
Very, very powerful. And you mentioned Batman, and you spoke my language, so it's all good.
Okay.
So before I let you go, I have some quick questions where you could just give me your one-word answers. Right?
All right.
So
okay.
If you had the opportunity to star in a movie, who would be your co-actor?
Oh man, I'd have to say probably Will Smith or The Rock.
Okay, so right now you have the opportunity of both The Rock and Will Smith. They're at your house, and you're there to serve them the best dinner that you've ever had. What would you serve them?
What would I serve them? I'm pretty dangerous on the barbecue grill, so I'd probably serve them my special barbecue chicken.
Sounds good. I'm gonna have to try that sometime.
All right.
Now, if you had the opportunity to race against anybody in the world, dead or alive, who would you like to have the opportunity to race against who was at their peak level?
If I was to race against anybody, is it bobsleigh or track? Well, I know more track guys, so oh man, who would I race against? That's a really hard one. Tell you the truth, I think because he has the fastest time in the world, it would have to be Bolt.
That would be an awesome race to watch.
I like the challenge, so.
And then, right, because you mentioned Batman, I'm gonna ask this: who would actually win, Superman or the Flash in the race?
Oh, Flash for sure. A Flash for
Oh,
sure.
hands down, right?
Yeah.
And finally, I'm going to ask, what is success like? And before you answer that question, I have 5 random items on these cards. If you pick a number between 1 to 5, you will say success is like this item.
Success is like
So pick one card.
3.
1, 2, 3. So the item is balloon animal. How is success like a balloon animal?
Success is like a balloon animal because as you're blowing the air into the balloon animal, it's almost like blowing your potential. So you have a lot of potential within.
Mm-hmm.
So you're filling that balloon with all your potential, your skills, your abilities, your talent. And then with that potential that you have, you're molding the potential into what you want to be the most successful individual you want to be yourself.
That's very, very insightful. Very good. Thank you very much for that. So success is like a balloon animal. You heard it from Neville here. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you with regards to your sessions and your training, what's the best way to reach out?
So through Instagram, all my social media tags, so Instagram, Twitter is at NWright, so NWRIGHT 021. And then on my personal website is www.nevillewright.ca.
Great. Well, thank you again for all your time, your stories, and your tips. It's very insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, for everybody else, this is the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.